This is a review of the vintage Grand Seiko 45JS, model 4522-8000. This one. Keep watching. So Grand Seiko made several 45JS models. They all different and very cool. But today we are reviewing 4522-8000. That's the model which is almost identical to iconic 44JS model. So I want to start with probably the most important thing about this watch, and something that is often misunderstood. This is not a dress watch, right? So that's like, if you want to remember one thing, remember this one. So this watch, obviously, if you put it on a crocodile, like if you want it to be a dress watch, it will great as a dress watch, but it will work in any situation of your life. It's very casual watch. For example, I put it on a fabric strap. I'm wearing a t-shirt. You can imagine maybe I'm wearing shorts, maybe I'm wearing jeans. It works perfect with this outfit, right? So pretty much this works. This watch is super universal. It's kind of like Explorer 1, that in any situation, if in your life, it will work, right? You don't need a different watch. That's the watch. So the whole idea of Grand Seiko was to create the perfect watch, and they did it. That's the one. That's the perfect watch, right? That works perfectly for your any day of your life, right? And that's not a surprise, right? Because according to grammar of design, so that's one of the principles of the grammar of design. The watch should work as a dress watch and as a casual watch. So this watch is a perfect, like, it works as a dress watch, but this watch is a perfect casual watch that works in any casual situation with any casual outfit. So when we are talking about grammar of design, we should talk about the most iconic, the very first Grand Seiko grammar of design watch, which is 44JS. And this watch, 4522-8000, is almost identical. That's pretty much you're looking at for 44JS. And here's why. If you look at the case did not change, right? That's pretty much the same 45JS case. There are no differences. Right, same size, same shape, same surfaces, same polishing, everything the same, right? Now, if you look at the dial is slightly different because it has upgraded movements. So there is slightly different text. It says like 36,000 high beat. It also has these actually super cool black lines on hands, which for JS didn't have it. Don't look down on these hands, because this is not actually black paint. That's actually filled with some kind of black onyx. That's actually really cool what they've done. And markers are it's like the same size, but they look slightly different because they're actually slightly more complex than for 44JS. But overall, these are like so minor differences. You look at both dials, they are the same, right? One more thing, they started making this one with date and without date. I actually really like the look of the date here, but if you want exact 44JS, get yourself this watch without date. So that is model without date. Now, what's drastically different from 44JS is the movement. So 44JS had this kind of unspectacular, it wasn't a bad movement, but there was nothing special about this movement. And from that unspectacular movement, they jumped to this, which is kind of one of the most legendary movements Grand Seiko ever made. So Gerald Donovan talked about this movement, and he said that these are as good as these vintage Grand Seikos get. Right, so after this one, the Grand Seiko still was making good movements, but they added more automation. They started becoming there were some changes because they become automatic also. They a little bit lowered the beat, but this is as good as these vintage Grand Seiko's movements get. according to pretty much Bible of vintage Grand Seiko, Gerald Donovan, right? So the big improvement is that instead of low beat, this is true high beat, true 36,000 high beat movements. It's still manual wind, which is super cool because most of Grand Seikos are actually automatic, so this one is manual wind. It has this like famous bridge, which is like only on this movement. It's super cool. Look at this picture. And also that's actually, this movement become a base of the movement that they used in legendary chronometer competition, that the one that Grand Seiko actually beat the Swiss. And after that, kind of they didn't allow Grand Seiko to compete anymore. They didn't want that anymore. So Seiko themselves considered this watch to be an improvement over iconic 44JS watch. So that's why very soon after 44JS was introduced, it was discontinued, and Grand Seiko was making this watch instead. So this is a replacement of 44JS, and that's Seiko considered a better watch. So that's why they discontinued that one. They started making this one. Okay, dimensions. So the size of this watch is 36.5 millimeters without crown. Now the lug to lug is 41 millimeters. The lug width is 17.5. I was actually surprised when I measured it. So a few days later I remeasured it, and that was 17.7 millimeters. But what's important about that size is, first of all, if you put 18 millimeter strap, it will work perfect. But if you put vintage these like imperial sizes, they are never precise. So the imperial size for 18 is 11/16. So that strap is slightly smaller than 18 millimeters, and that strap will still work perfect on this watch. I actually have one, and it worked. So I was surprised, like why there is no gap. That's why, because this one is slightly smaller. So both 18 millimeters and 11/16 work perfect with this Grand Seiko. And another like super cool thing is that this watch is super thin. It's only 9 millimeters thin. It's because the hand-wound movement and like modern, even those like thin modern Grand Seikos, they are still very far from what this watch achieved. So this is like super cool. So date, we need to talk about date a little bit. So date does have a quick set. That's very important. So something what took Rolex like forever. So you always need to check if your Rolex has quick set or doesn't have quick set. Here they already had quick set. So that's super cool. And they implemented this instant date change, which was like super innovative. So there are like a bunch of springs that keep jumping, but basically there's like they change, like you can see the video now here, it changes like instantly, which is super nice. There is a small issue, so like my watch actually has a small issue with the date. So sometimes the date jumps to the next day. So like for example, we are on the first of month, and instead of jumping from first to second, it would jump from first to third. So kind of like you see the issue actually in the video right now. So I talked to Spencer Klein about it. So he says it's probably time for a service. Just watchmaker needs to look into it. So the issue is not that bad because again, it has quick set, right? So every morning you wind up your watch, you see that the date needs to be corrected. So you like using quick set, you just like easily corrected, right? So it's not a big deal, but kind of something what you should know about, because I heard some other people also reported this issue. If you know anything about it, let me know. I'm gonna put it in the comments. Another thing is this is a high beat movement, so it needs more energy. So the mainspring is much harder to wind. So something that you should keep in mind. Sometimes it could be like hard kind of on the fingers. So I usually start just with fingers and I finish with a tool. You can see my video about that tool over here. So for example, a modern that's quite common, like modern Speedmasters, I also heard they have this very tough mainspring. Yeah, you can use a tool, or yeah, just something to keep in mind. Another one, does high beat mean short service intervals? Absolutely not. Here's why. For normal people which don't collect watches, yes, it might mean short intervals because the watch beats more than the normal watch, so it means that the wear is it's worn more, right? But for people like us who have multiple watches, it makes no difference, right? Like even if you have like two, three watches, so like if this watch will be worn like every third day, right? So it will have like what, like think about, like most modern watches are 28 to 28.8 thousand, right? This is 36,000, right? So like imagine it wears more than like 20% more, right? So what, right? Even if all of your watches are 18, these like old 18,000 watches, the beats watches, so this will just like double that wear. But like if you have 10 watches and it's like this is like 1 of 10, then so like this like increase in wear is negligible for people like us, not for normal people. For normal people who are wearing this every day, yes, the wear is more. But again, like these watches were designed to have normal service intervals, not to have shorter service intervals. So should be okay. The main problem with service is that your oils dry, right? So in about 7 years you are running dry, so that's why you need to service your watch. And that additional like little bit of the wear, like it means nothing, right? Absolutely nothing. But you should service your watch, like at least like in 10 years oils dry even in a vacuum. So you definitely should have some reasonable service intervals for your watches, and this should not have any different service interval than your normal mechanical watch. So that's on that. Yeah, so I made more videos that should be super helpful for you. So see my video. First of all, if you want to buy this watch or any Grand Seiko, see my video how to buy a vintage Grand Seiko. That's as far as I know, that's the best guide ever created. So go click here and watch it. Also very useful video about straps, how to pick straps for vintage Grand Seiko. I actually used this one as an example. Very useful video. Go click here and watch that video. Okay, so and if you like vintage watches, what should you do? You should subscribe. You can like, right? You can like this video, but the main thing is you should subscribe. So click over here on my face, and also check out my channel. So first check out my channel, see that you like it, you will like it, about vintage watches, by the way, and subscribe to my channel about vintage watches over here. Okay, thank you, bye.